The sun was a blistering inferno, casting long, wavering shadows across the vast Egyptian desert. Dr. Samuel Carter wiped the sweat from his brow as he squinted at the stone structure before him. A forgotten tomb, untouched by time, unearthed by the relentless winds of the desert. The entrance was hidden beneath centuries of sand, but now, standing in its shadow, he couldn't shake the eerie feeling that they had crossed a line that should never have been breached. "Are you sure about this?" Dr. Lucy Harrow, his second-in-command, asked, her voice trembling as she studied the worn hieroglyphs etched into the walls of the tomb's entrance. They were unlike any she had seen before, crudely drawn, as if hastily warning future generations. Samuel nodded, but his heart raced. This discovery could rewrite history, but something about the tomb felt wrong. The hieroglyphs didn't just tell a story, they screamed it, a warning, a desperate plea. "Let's open it up," Samuel ordered, his voice wavering slightly. The other members of the team, seasoned archaeologists and eager students, moved forward with their tools, prying open the stone door. As the ancient seal broke with a deep, groaning sound, a rush of cold air hit them, carrying with it the scent of decay and centuries of death. The air in the desert was suffocatingly hot, yet inside the tomb, it was frigid. Darkness loomed before them, an abyss swallowing their light. "All right, stay close," Samuel said, as he adjusted his headlamp and led the way inside. The interior was massive, larger than any tomb they had ever seen, its walls covered in faded murals depicting a terrifying story. A pharaoh unlike any in history, a tyrant, cursed by the gods and entombed alive for his betrayal. This was no ordinary tomb. It was a prison. "This isn't right," Lucy whispered. "The hieroglyphs say something about the Pharaoh of Shadows. They feared him, even in death." They ventured deeper, the tomb's atmosphere growing heavier. Strange carvings adorned the walls, mummified figures with elongated limbs and hollow eyes, as though they had been stretched beyond human form. The further they walked, the more oppressive the air became. "This place feels alive," Carter muttered, his hand trembling as he ran his fingers along the cold stone. "We're getting close." As they reached the burial chamber, the stone sarcophagus loomed large in the center, untouched, sealed by thick iron chains. "Open it," Samuel ordered, his curiosity overriding the cold fear gnawing at his spine. The team worked quickly, prying open the sarcophagus with their tools. As the lid slid off with a deafening scrape, a wave of terror swept over them. Inside was the mummy, wrapped in decayed linen, its face hidden beneath centuries of dust and cloth. But something was wrong. The mummy's eyes. They weren't hollow like other remains they had found. They were black, empty voids that seemed to watch them, follow their movements. And its body wasn't stiff, but slightly contorted, as though it had tried to move. Before anyone could react, the chamber filled with a low, guttural groan that reverberated through the tomb. It was a sound that didn't belong to the living, yet it echoed in their bones. "We need to leave," Lucy whispered, backing away, her breath quickening. Suddenly, the torches flickered and went out. Complete darkness enveloped them and panic set in. "Stay calm. Stay together," Samuel shouted, but his voice was drowned out by the rising wind that seemed to come from nowhere, howling through the tomb like the wail of 1,000 lost souls. In the pitch-black silence, there was movement, shuffling, dragging footsteps. "Who's there?" one of the team members yelled, his voice cracking. A flashlight flickered on, illuminating the sarcophagus. Empty. The mummy was gone. A scream tore through the chamber. The beam of light swung wildly to reveal one of their team, slumped against the wall, his face frozen in terror, his body lifeless. Wrapped around his neck were decaying linen strips, the same linen that had bound the mummy. "It's alive!" someone shouted. Panic erupted. They ran in different directions, desperate to find a way out. but the tomb was a labyrinth of death. The walls seemed to shift, narrowing as the sounds of dragging footsteps grew louder. One by one, they fell. The mummy was relentless, its ancient, cursed body moving with unnatural speed, hunting them, wrapping its grotesque hands around their throats, strangling the life from them. Each death was slow, suffocating, as the linen wrapped tighter and tighter. Lucy and Samuel were the last two survivors, their breaths ragged as they stumbled through the dark, cold corridors. The tomb felt alive, its walls pulsating with the rage of the mummy they had awoken. "We're trapped!" Lucy cried, clutching her chest, her heartbeat echoing in her ears. "There has to be a way out," Samuel yelled back, but he knew deep down there wasn't. The hieroglyphs hadn't just been a warning, they had been a promise, a curse buried with the Pharaoh of Shadows, who now sought vengeance for his eternal imprisonment. Just as they reached what they thought was the exit, the air turned cold. The ground beneath them trembled, and from the shadows, the mummy emerged, towering over them, its hollow eyes glowing with malevolent intent. It reached for Samuel first. His screams echoed through the tomb as the ancient linen wrapped around his neck, crushing the life out of him. Lucy backed away, her eyes wide in terror, but there was nowhere to go. The mummy turned to her, its hand outstretched, ready to claim its final victim. But Lucy, in her final moment, understood. The only way to stop the curse was to return the mummy to its eternal rest. With trembling hands, she grabbed the chains they had removed from the sarcophagus and threw them at the mummy. The iron glowed as it wrapped around the creature, forcing it back toward its tomb. The air thickened, the walls quaked, and with a deafening roar, the mummy was dragged back into the darkness, sealed once again within the ancient stone. The tomb fell silent. Lucy collapsed to the ground, tears streaming down her face, her heart racing. The curse had been stopped, for now. But she knew the Pharaoh of Shadows was merely waiting, biding his time for the next group of souls foolish enough to disturb his eternal slumber.